Look, nobody at the Galactic Conservation Station expected the human to fix the problem. Honestly, nobody expected the human to do anything except maybe accidentally break something expensive or ask uncomfortable questions about whether certain species tasted like chicken. That's just what humans do. They show up, they poke things, they make everyone nervous, and somehow, according to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. They stumble backward into solving problems that have baffled the galaxy's best minds for decades. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. My name is Zrix, which most humans can't pronounce, so they just call me Zix like I'm some kind of breakfast cereal. I'm a Valorian, which means I've got 4 arms, crystalline skin that refracts light in 17 different spectrums, and approximately 0 patience for nonsense. I've been the head xenobiologist at the Galactic Conservation Station for 8 cycles, and in that time, I've dealt with every crisis you can imagine. Breeding failures, habitat collapses. That one time, a politician's kid released a horde of bantha worms into the filtration system, and we all had to evacuate for a month. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the Kravith cubs. The Kravith are what you'd call an apex predator species. And when I say apex, I mean these things make Earth's lions look like adorable house cats. They're from Kravith Prime, a death world so hostile that the planet's tourism board just gave up and started marketing it as the place where everything wants to kill you, come die here. The Kravith themselves stand about 3 meters tall on their hind legs, have retractable claws that can slice through durasteel, and possess a bite force that could crush a cargo container. Their eyes glow in the dark. They communicate through a series of growls and roars that trigger the primal fear response in pretty much every sentient species, except, apparently, humans, who think they sound metal. The Kravith are also critically endangered, only about 2,000 left in the entire galaxy. So when we managed to get 3 cubs born in captivity, it was a huge deal. We're talking intergalactic news coverage, scientific papers being written before the cubs even opened their eyes, the whole 9 yards. There was just one tiny problem. The cubs wouldn't eat. Not from their mother, not from the bottle, not from any of our carefully prepared nutritional formulas. They'd nurse for the first few weeks, sure, but once it came time to transition to solid food, nothing. They'd sniff it, maybe bat it around a little, and then curl up in the corner of their habitat and refuse to touch it. We tried everything. Different meats from different prey animals, temperature variations, scent markers. We consulted with Kravith specialists from 6 different stations. We even brought in a psychic empath to see if the cubs were experiencing some kind of emotional trauma. The empath took one look at them, said, "Those children are just being stubborn little jerks," charged us 3,000 credits, and left. The cubs were losing weight. Their mother was frantic. And I was about 3 days away from a complete nervous breakdown. That's when the human showed up. Her name was Jessica Chen, and she was part of some Earth-based conservation exchange program. Apparently, humans had gotten really good at captive breeding programs after spending centuries driving their own species to extinction and then feeling bad about it. Who knew guilt could be such an effective motivator? Jessica was short by human standards, maybe 165 centimeters, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and the kind of bright, cheerful expression that made me immediately suspicious. Humans who smile that much are either genuinely nice, which is unsettling, or planning something, which is terrifying. "Hi," she said, sticking out her hand in that weird human greeting ritual where they grab each other's appendages and shake them. I reluctantly extended one of my lower arms. Her grip was firm. Too firm. Humans never remember that their friendly handshake registers as aggressive territorial display to about 60% of the galaxy. I'm Jessica. I'm so excited to be here. I've read all about your work with the Kravith population. It's incredible what you're doing. Thank you, I said, extracting my hand before she could crush any more of my metacarpals. I'm Zrixatal. Call me Zix. Let me show you around. I gave her the standard tour, showed her the habitat zones, the medical facilities, the research labs. She asked good questions. I'll give her that. Thoughtful questions about diet composition and social structures and environmental enrichment. She had actually done her homework, which put her ahead of about 90% of the interns we usually got. Then we got to the Kravith habitat. The cubs were in a separate enclosure from their mother. We'd had to separate them after she started getting aggressive from stress. And they were just lying there in a miserable little pile. 3 balls of fluff that should have been bouncing around and play fighting and generally acting like the apex predator babies they were. Instead, they looked like someone had canceled Christmas. Jessica pressed her face right up against the observation glass, which made me nervous because the glass was technically rated for Kravith adult strikes. But I wouldn't want to test it with a human's face. Humans have this thing about needing their faces. Oh no, she whispered. Oh, you poor babies. They won't eat, I said. We've tried everything. Have you tried sitting with them? I blinked, all 4 of my eyes. Excuse me? Sitting with them, being present during feeding time. We have automated feeders, observation protocols, and a sophisticated monitoring system. We don't sit with the animals. This is a conservation facility, not a petting zoo. Jessica turned to look at me, and there was something in her expression that made me take a step back. It wasn't angry exactly, more like disappointed, which somehow felt worse. Zix, they're babies. Baby predators, sure, but still babies. They're probably scared and lonely and confused about why they're separated from their mom. Sometimes animals don't need more technology. They need someone to give a damn. I bristled. I assure you, we give a damn about these cubs. We've invested thousands of hours. That's not what I meant. She held up her hands in a placating gesture. I know you care. I can see that you care. But maybe they need a different kind of care. Can I try something? Every instinct I had screamed no. Humans and experimental approaches were a dangerous combination. But the cubs were dying, and I was out of ideas. What exactly do you want to try? I want to sit with them during feeding time, in the habitat. Absolutely not. The cubs may be young, but they're still Kravith. They're predators. You could get hurt. Jessica smiled. That same bright, cheerful smile that humans use right before they do something insane. I've hand-raised wolf cubs back on Earth. I know how to read animal body language. I'll be careful. Wolves are not Kravith. Wolves can't bite through durasteel. No, but they can bite through bone, and I've still got all my fingers. Look, just let me try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But what do you have to lose? Pride, I thought. Protocol. Possibly my job when the station director finds out I let a human into a predator enclosure. But she had a point. What did we have to lose? The cubs were already at critical weight. If we didn't do something drastic soon, we'd lose them anyway. Fine, I said. But I'm staying in the observation room. And at the first sign of aggression, you pull me out, I get it. Thank you, Zix. She started toward the habitat door, and I grabbed her shoulder with one of my upper arms. Jessica, Be careful, please. Always am, she said, and then she winked. She actually winked, like this was some kind of adventure and not a potential mauling scenario. I watched through the observation glass as she entered the habitat. The cub's ears perked up immediately. They had good hearing, and 3 pairs of glowing eyes locked onto her. Jessica moved slowly, deliberately, keeping her body language relaxed and non-threatening. She was carrying a container of prepared food, the same formula the cubs had been rejecting for days. She sat down. Right there on the habitat floor, cross-legged, like she was settling in for a picnic. The cubs watched her warily, but they didn't move, didn't growl, just watched. "Hey, babies," Jessica said softly. Her voice came through the audio feed, gentle and calm. "I know you're scared. I know everything's weird and different and you don't understand what's happening. But I brought you dinner, and you need to eat, okay? You need to grow big and strong." Nothing. The cubs didn't move. Jessica opened the fur container and set it on the ground in front of her. Then she just sat there. Didn't try to coax them over, didn't make sudden movements. Just sat. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I was about to call the whole thing off when the smallest cub, we'd been calling him Runt because scientists are terrible at creative naming, took a tentative step forward. Jessica didn't react, didn't even look at him directly, just kept her eyes slightly averted, her posture relaxed. Runt crept closer, sniffed the air. His siblings watched from their corner, uncertain. Then he did something that made my 4 hearts skip a beat. He walked right up to Jessica and headbutted her arm. Jessica laughed. Actually laughed, like a predator cub investigating her was the most delightful thing in the universe. "Well, hello there, little man. You're a brave one, aren't you?" She slowly, so slowly, reached out and scratched behind his ear. Runt's eyes closed, and I swear I heard him start to purr. A baby Kravith, purring, like he was some kind of oversized kitten. "That's it," Jessica murmured. "You're okay, you're safe. And look, there's food right here. Doesn't that smell good?" Runt sniffed the container, looked at Jessica, sniffed again. And then, miracle of miracles, he started eating. The other 2 cubs looked at each other, seemed to have a silent conversation that only siblings can have, and then slowly approached. Within minutes, all 3 cubs were eating while Jessica sat there, gently petting whichever one wandered close enough. I couldn't believe it. Weeks of carefully planned interventions, consultations with experts, thousands of credits spent on specialized equipment. And all it took was one human sitting on the floor being present. "Well," said a voice behind me. "That's unexpected." I jumped about 1/2 meter. My supervisor, Director Kavalan, a massive thoraxian with a voice like grinding metal, was standing behind me, all 6 of his eyes fixed on the habitat. "Director, I can explain." "No need. I've been monitoring the situation. Unconventional approach, but effective." He paused. "The human will need to maintain this protocol until the cubs are reliably self-feeding. Daily sessions. Supervised, of course." "Of course," I said, my voice sounding slightly strangled. Over the next few weeks, Jessica's daily sitting sessions became the highlight of the station's schedule. Word spread, as word does on a space station where gossip travels faster than light. And suddenly everyone wanted to observe the human whisperer working her magic. And it was magic in a way. Not literally, I checked. But watching Jessica interact with the cubs was like watching someone speak a language the rest of us had forgotten. She never forced them to do anything, never raised her voice, just sat with them, talked to them, pet them, and gradually, they began to thrive. The cubs started playing again, started putting on weight, started acting like, well, cubs. They'd pounce on Jessica's shoelaces, chew on her ponytail, curl up against her legs while she talked to them about her day, her life on Earth, her work with wolves and tigers, and all manner of predators that humans had nearly destroyed and then desperately tried to save. "You know what your problem is?" Jessica said to me one day, about 3 weeks into her sessions. We were in the observation room, watching the cubs play fight with each other. You see them as conservation projects, numbers on a chart, genetic diversity statistics. "That's not fair," I protested. "We care about these animals." "I know you do, but you care about them as a species. I care about them as individuals. There's a difference." She pointed at Runt, who was currently trying to ambush his brother and failing spectacularly. "That's not juvenile Kravith specimen A. That's Runt, and he's got anxiety, but he's incredibly sweet once he trusts you. And that one," she pointed at the female cub, "is Sass, because she has attitude for days. And the big one is Chomper because, well, he chomps everything." Those are terrible scientific designations. They're names, Zix. Animals need names. They need to be individuals, not just data points. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. Because she was right. Somewhere along the way, in all our protocols and procedures and careful documentation, we'd forgotten that these were living beings with personalities and preferences and feelings. The day came when we were ready to reintroduce the cubs to their mother. It was a delicate process. We'd been maintaining scent contact between them, doing short supervised visits, all the standard protocols. But this would be the first time they'd be together unsupervised since the separation. Everyone was nervous. The mother, Kayla, was nervous. The cubs were nervous. I was practically vibrating with anxiety. Jessica, naturally, was calm. "They'll be fine," she said. "Trust them." "Easy for you to say. You won't be the one filling out the incident reports if this goes wrong." It won't go wrong. She was right, of course. The reunion went perfectly. The cubs bounded into their mother's habitat, and after some initial sniffing and tentative approaches, Kayla gathered all 3 of them close and started grooming them with such obvious relief and joy that I definitely didn't get something in all 4 of my eyes. That would be unprofessional. Jessica stood next to me at the observation window, watching the family reunite. "See? Told you they'd be fine." "You were right," I admitted. "About all of it. I'm sorry I doubted you." "Don't apologize. You were doing your best with the knowledge and training you had. That's all anyone can do. But maybe now you'll remember that sometimes the solution to a problem isn't more technology or more analysis. Sometimes it's just being there, showing up, caring enough to sit on a cold floor and wait." Over the following months, the cubs continued to thrive. They grew strong and healthy, hitting all their developmental milestones. The breeding program expanded, using what we'd learned from Jessica's approach. We trained staff in presence-based care protocols. We gave all the animals names. We spent less time monitoring screens and more time actually observing, being present, connecting. Jessica's exchange program eventually ended, as all programs do. The day she left, the entire station turned out to see her off. She made her rounds, saying goodbye to the various animals she'd worked with, saving the Kravith for last. I accompanied her to the habitat. The cubs, not so much cubs anymore, more like awkward teenagers, immediately bounded over when they saw her. They were too big now for her to safely enter the habitat. But she pressed her hands against the glass, and they pressed their massive heads against it from the other side. "Hey, my babies," she said softly. "Look at you. You're so big and strong now. I'm so proud of you. You're going to do great things. You're going to save your species. You know that? You three are going to have cubs of your own someday, and they'll have cubs. And one day Kravith Prime will be full of your descendants, and they'll be alive because you were brave enough to trust a weird alien lady who sat on your floor." Runt made a soft chuffing sound. Even through the glass, I could hear it. "I know, buddy. I'll miss you too. But Zix is going to take good care of you. And you need to be good for them, okay? Eat your vegetables. Do your enrichment activities. Don't bite the keepers." She turned to me, and her eyes were shiny in that way human eyes get when they're about to leak. Humans are so weird about their emotions. "Take care of them, Zix." "I will, I promise. And Jessica, thank you for everything. You changed how we see these animals, how we see our work. Just remember what I taught you. Sometimes the most sophisticated solution is the simplest one. Show up, be present, give a damn." "I will." She smiled, gave the cubs one last look, and headed for the transport dock. That was 3 years ago. The cubs, Runt, Sass, and Chomper, because those names stuck despite my best efforts, are adults now. Runt just became a father himself. Sass is the most popular animal on the station for educational programs because, true to her name, she has incredible personality. Chomper is part of a breeding loan to another facility, where he's apparently charming everyone despite his tendency to chew on things he shouldn't. The Kravith population has stabilized. We're up to 3,000 individuals across various facilities and wild populations. It's not a huge number, but it's growth. It's hope. And every single day, when I make my rounds, I remember Jessica's lesson. I sit with the animals for a few minutes, not monitoring them through screens, but actually sitting with them, being present. Some of the other staff thought I was crazy at first, but now it's standard practice. The human protocol, they call it, which I think would make Jessica laugh. We got a message from her last month. She's back on Earth, working with a restoration project for some kind of bear that humans apparently killed off and then brought back from extinction. Because that's what humans do. They break things, and then they fix them, usually in the most chaotic, illogical, effective way possible. "The cubs doing okay?" she wrote. "Tell Runt congratulations on the babies. Tell Sass to stop giving the interns a hard time. Tell Chomper to stop chewing things. And tell yourself to keep up the good work. You're doing amazing things, Zix. I'm proud of you." I printed that message and put it up in my office. When I have a bad day, when nothing seems to be working and I'm drowning in protocols and procedures and endless documentation, I look at it and remember. Sometimes the solution isn't more complicated equipment or more sophisticated analysis. Sometimes you just need to sit down, shut up, and give a damn. Humans figured that out a long time ago, somewhere between nearly destroying their own planet and desperately trying to save it. They learned that you can't fix everything from a distance. You have to show up. You have to be there. You have to care about individuals, not just statistics. It's a very human thing, actually. That stubborn, illogical, beautiful insistence that every single life matters. That every individual deserves to be seen, to be known, to be named. The galaxy's better for having learned that lesson. And the Kravith cubs are alive because one human was brave enough, or crazy enough, the line's pretty thin, to sit on a cold floor and wait for scared babies to trust her. That's the thing about humans. They're reckless and emotional, and they make decisions based on feelings rather than logic. They're impulsive and unpredictable, and they consistently ignore safety protocols. And somehow, impossibly, it works. The cubs wouldn't eat until a human sat with them. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds like something from a children's story, not a legitimate conservation success. But here's the thing about humans. And this is something the galaxy is slowly, reluctantly learning. Sometimes ridiculous is exactly what's needed. Sometimes the answer isn't in the data or the protocols or the carefully planned interventions. Sometimes it's in the simple act of showing up, sitting down, and caring enough to wait. I've got about 30 years left in my career. Maybe more if I take the life extension treatments. And I'm going to spend every single day of those years remembering what Jessica taught me. Every single day, I'm going to sit with the animals in my care. I'm going to see them as individuals. I'm going to give a damn. Because that's what humans do. That's what they've always done. They see a problem, something everyone else has accepted as unsolvable, and they say, "Yeah, but have you tried just caring more?" And somehow, impossibly, illogically, beautifully, it works. The predator cubs wouldn't eat until the human sat with them. It's the kind of story that gets told around the station now, passed down to new staff members and exchange students. Some of them think it's exaggerated. Some think it's just a feel-good myth. I was there. I watched it happen. And I'm here to tell you, every word is true. Humans are exhausting. They're chaotic. They make me want to tear out my crystalline hair strands on a regular basis. But by all the stars in the galaxy, I'm glad they're on our side. Because when everyone else has given up, when all the logic and reason and careful planning has failed, humans show up with their ridiculous ideas and their stubborn hearts and their absolute refusal to let anyone or anything just quietly give up and die. They sit on cold floors and wait. They name the unnamed. They care when caring seems pointless. And somehow, impossibly, they save the world. One stubborn, illogical, beautiful decision at a time. The cubs are sleeping now. All three of them, plus Runt's two newborns, curled up together in their habitat. They're safe. They're healthy. They're alive because a human named Jessica Chen cared enough to sit with them. Tomorrow, I'll sit with them too. And the day after that. And every day after that. Until my last day on this station. Because that's what Jessica taught me. That's what humans teach everyone they meet, whether we want to learn it or not. Show up. Be present. Give a damn. It's not complicated. It's not sophisticated. It's not the kind of solution that wins awards or gets published in prestigious journals. But it works. By all the stars and across all the galaxies, it works. And that's the most human thing of all.